This video is brought to you by the Army Painter. When you think of Thousand Suns, you're probably picturing ancient wizards, magically animated constructs, heresy-era war machines, and the dustiest boys this side of Prospero. What if instead of that, we focused on the weirdos? That's right, the tzaangors, mutiliths, and other twisted piles of chaotic bubblegum that make up the Warpmeld Pact detachment. To sign your own immortal pact to the dark gods, simply hit that big ol' subscribe button. To read more about this detachment, head over to goonhammer.com. Link in the description. Detachment Rule: Warpmeld Sacrifice. Anytime one of your tzeentch mutant units attacks, it can take D3 mortal wounds to add 1 to the wound roll. Anytime your opponent attacks one of your tzeentch mutant units, your unit can take D3 mortal wounds to subtract 1 from the incoming wound rolls. Tzaangors gain the battle line keyword, and they gain 1 to their objective control characteristic when they are not battle shocked. Adding 1 to wound rolls is useful for any of your units, especially considering how scary units like Tzaangor Enlightened and Mutilith Vortex Beasts can be. The defensive half of the rule might seem like it's a bit rough. Taking mortal wounds to avoid normal wounds isn't a great trade-off for your normal Tzaangors, but the 5-up Feel No Pain on Chaos Spawn and Mutiliths makes it worth considering. And if you've got a big blob of Tzaangors, the math might work out in your favor occasionally, but don't count on it. Battle line on Tzaangors is solid though, and a cheap source of high OC units in what is otherwise a pretty elite army. Most of the enhancements here go on Tzaangor Shamans, and will mostly benefit units of Tzaangors and Tzaangor Enlightened. Warpmeld Dagger lets your Tzaangor Shaman trade D3 mortal wounds for that much of a bonus to their ritual roll, great for pushing an important ritual over. They probably won't live long enough to do this twice though. Diamond of Distortion subtracts 1 from incoming hit rolls, letting your Shaman boost the survivability of any unit they're attached to. This is nice for a unit of Enlightened, or if you want to make a particularly tanky block of 20 Tzaangors. Bray Lord is the only enhancement that can go on anything but a Tzaangor Shaman, and it lets your Sorcerer or Infernal Master join a Tzaangor squad. Lethal hits from the Sorcerer is okay, but Tzaangors aren't ever going to be too much of a threat. Back to Shamans, Flowing Flesh gives one of your Tzaangor Shamans a 4-up Feel No Pain and an extra wound. This is neat with a lone Shaman, making him just annoying enough to remove, and with his speed, he makes for a good objective bozo. The Stratagems are a fun toolbox of abilities that really bring this detachment to life. Gift of Change turns one of your Thousand Suns characters into a Chaos Spawn when they die, which is not only funny and thematic, but genuinely pretty useful. Chaos Spawn are a solid objective play unit, and this lets you make some lemonade with your fallen character. Warped Vicissitude is a flat 4-up invulnerable save on a unit of Tzaangors. You likely use this a lot, as it can really make them a headache to remove. Deranged Ferocity lets a mutant model pile in and consolidate 6 inches and fight out to 3 inches, letting you either get the most out of a big unit of Tzaangors or just make your spawn even more annoying. Blessed Transmutations gives D3+1 models back to a Tzaangor unit that's near a Psyker. This is nice for topping off a unit you might have used a pact on, or just to bring some OC over the edge to pinch an objective. Touched by Tzeentch lets a mutant unit shoot or charge after advancing. This is amazing for getting your mutiliths into position to hand out mortal wounds, or even just to throw spawn into inconvenient places. Twisted Mirage gives a mutant unit in reserve a 6-inch deep strike, or 9 inches if they're a monster. This can be nifty for getting some Tzaangors where they need to be, or enhancing your spawn objective play. Overall, this is a pretty straightforward detachment. You'll be running a lot of spawn, mutiliths, and Tzaangor Enlightened. All of these are efficient units in normal Thousand Suns lists, and only get better with the support of this detachment. Mutiliths in particular are amazing with a flat -1 to wound from the detachment rule, making units trying to punch up into them do virtually nothing. You'll be looking to out-OC your opponents with Tzaangors, while bullying objectives with your more beefy units. You also can definitely run some normal Thousand Suns units here, so don't fill up on Tzaangors. Now let's go over the strengths and weaknesses. Buffs for some of your best units. Almost all your mutants were units you were going to consider taking anyway, and this detachment just pushes them further. A flat -1 to wound. We've largely seen rules writing move away from things being -1 to wound if the strength is lower than the target's toughness. Getting access to it here makes punching up into those units incredibly difficult. OC2 Tzaangors. This makes them a much better objective bullying unit, where even just half a squad can take a point from most units in the game. Now unfortunately, tzaangors aren't that good on their own. While tzaangors are great for objective play, they're not so hot in combat, and this detachment is definitely trying to push you towards that game plan. There's also nothing here for your normal units. Aside from being able to turn your characters into spawn when they die, there isn't much here that we could call support. And the enhancements just ain't so great. There's nothing here that's particularly exciting for your units, and they're mostly just here to fill out the list. This is a neat detachment, providing a path towards a playstyle that isn't really present in the other ones. While its stratagems and enhancements aren't all winners, there's some great tools to help some of your mutants get where they need to be. This is definitely worth looking at for a nice change of pace from your standard rubric game plan, and it's good to have a detachment for all the little freaks out there. If you want to see how we'd run this gaggle of weirdos, head over to goonhammer.com for a sample list and more. You can also support us on Patreon for Discord access and bonus podcasts, and like and subscribe to us here on YouTube. We'd also like to thank the Army Painter for sponsoring this video. I've been Clangor McTzaangor, and I don't remember Goat Simulator looking anything like this. Thanks for watching.